Today, we continue our Tolkien Reading Day celebration. Special episode number 130 is here, featuring a distinguished guest, this time from the UK. We'll share the history of the Tolkien Reading Day and the organization historically responsible for the event. Hello, my name is Maciej and I would like to welcome you to the charming Green Dragon Inn. Normally in our podcast, I prepare and tell you about interesting stories from Professor Tolkien's texts as we analyze them together with my co-host.
Hello, my name is Ola and I manage the social media of our podcast. Today, I will be joining Maciek as a co-host to welcome our very special guests arriving at our inn from very far, far away.
Another member of our podcast team is of course Kasia, who is usually a co-host, supports me linguistically when we discuss Tolkien's original writing and takes care of technical side of our podcast.
And the last member is of course Nikodem, who is responsible for all the audio editing and special effects. The Green Dragon Inn is a friendly place for all travelers. Here, you will be able to wander together with us through the immensely rich works of Professor John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, because we analyze his texts a few paragraphs at a time in each episode. We delve into the history, interesting facts, and some humor. We also compare our native Polish translations of the professor's works with each other or to the original text.
In our conversations, we rely heavily on already existing material, which forms a very sizable Tolkien's collection, that is, the base of books on which we focus when preparing each episode. However, everything is done in a very
inn-like manner.
Yes, as a loose and casual conversation between us and sometimes like today, between our special guests who regularly visit the inn.
If you want to learn more about our podcast, we encourage you to check out episode number 0 or the trailer. There we talk a bit about ourselves and above all about the very form, inspiration and goals of our podcasting. So take a seat in our inn under the Green Dragon, prepare yourself a pint of a good drink, and we begin our today's journey to Middle-earth.
Today, our special guest is someone who is deeply involved in Tolkien Reading Day and knows it from the inside.
Yes, among his many roles, he is an administrator of a website that we use all the time while preparing our podcast, which is, of course, Tolkien.net. He also helps maintain another incredibly interesting website, lordoftheringsproject.com.
He has written numerous articles which were published in journals such as Amon Hen, Malorn and Hiddleshire. He also co-hosted the well-known Prancing Pony podcast from 2022 to 2023.
And above all, our guest is the longest-serving executive in the history of the Tolkien Society, first as a chairman and now as CEO. Dear listeners, please welcome Mr. Shaun Gunner. Hello.
Hi, Shaun.
Hi, thank you guys for having me. Great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yes,
it's a pleasure for us.
It's a great honor to have you in our inn at the Green Dragon.
What are we drinking? What are we going to drink?
A pint.
A pint.
I have orange juice, so...
I only have water, but I wish it was a pint.
I feel like Tolkien would have wanted us to have something a bit stronger than those two.
Yes. But we can do that live when we meet live, then we can do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Okay, Shaun, our long tradition is to ask 5 same questions to all our guests that are first time in our podcast. And the questions are, so the first question is always mine. For how long have you been reading Tolkien books?
So it's an interesting story, this one. So when I was about 7 or 8, my parents used to take me to the library in the village every single Saturday. And I saw the graphic novel version of The Hobbit. And I didn't like it. And apologies to David Wenzel, because I now know 8-year-old me was completely wrong. But at the time, I didn't like it. So if it hadn't been for that, I never would have read Tolkien ever again. But it was because the films came around. So I started reading Tolkien properly in 2001. So frighteningly, that's made me realise it's been 25 years of my life that I have been reading Tolkien.
All right.
So actually you have started with films, yeah? So with Peter Jackson.
Yeah, so I knew the film was coming out. I remember seeing the trailer with Ian McKellen's voice over it, and I thought to myself, this looks quite interesting. I read the book, and then I read the book and I was like, oh my God, I know what's going to happen. I know what happens. And like, I remember my friends at school, because I was 13 when The Fellowship of the Ring came out, and my friends at school were talking endlessly about, what do you think is going to happen in the trilogy? And I was like, I know. And then I remember all my birthdays when I was like 13, 14, 15, 16, every birthday, every Christmas, it was more Tolkien books, more Tolkien books, more Tolkien books.
Yeah.
So, when you kind of discover Tolkien for the first time and you're going to the Silmarillion, you're going to Unfinished Tales, you're going to History of Middle-earth and Rover Random and Farmer Giles of Ham, and even things like Mr. Bliss, right? And then you kind of sort of explore some of Tolkien's academic works, like On Fairy Stories, English and Welsh, A Secret Vice.
Yes. So
yeah, I was sort of devouring all of it, and then since then, obviously, I'm reading Tolkien all the time. So my most recent book, which actually I've got here with me, is Giuseppe Pezzini's book.
Okay.
Tolkien and the Mystery
quite new.
of It's very new. It came out late last year, and it's lovely. It's a great book. So yeah, that's my latest read.
So it's been a lifelong journey for you. It keeps going.
And do you know what? I'm always learning. And in fact, one of the things I think is amazing with, everybody will, as we know, in this age where, politics around the world feels challenging, people's lives feel uncertain, there's a lot of criticism for social media. Yeah. I happen to think there's some fantastic Tolkien creators out there who still teach me things all the time about Tolkien, and I think that's wonderful, and I love hearing people's perspectives on Tolkien. So that's I'll probably read less Tolkien directly these days, but I'll probably learn more about Tolkien through other people's perspectives.
Yeah, which can be just as enjoyable. True. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing that with us. And the next question is, do you have a favorite quote or saying from Tolkien's works?
Am I allowed to have two?
Okay.
So the first one is the kind of, it's a quote to live by, which is quite a straightforward one. And I expect lots of your guests and the sorts of people to pick this quote, which is, all we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. And it is true of all of us in all of our lives. It's all we have to decide. So, but there's another quote, and this one shows the power of Tolkien's writings. It's a quote. It's only 3 words, but it sends shivers down my spine every time I read it. And those 3 words are, "And Morgoth came."
Whoa, that's my favorite quotation as well. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
That's such an iconic scene.
Yes.
Oh wow.
And Morgoth came. Yes.
And it's what a fantastic sentence from Tolkien, and the power.
Oh my goodness.
You immediately get goosebumps from it. So I think it's a fantastic example of Tolkien's creativity, of his power as a writer. So it's also a fantastic scene with Fingolfin and Morgoth.
Yes,
Fingolfin is
probably most iconic, best.
My favorite hero in all Middle Earth and on all Tolkien's works, and this scene as well. So yeah.
Don't you have a tattoo of this scene, Maciej?
I have, yes, of course.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Fingolfin with Morgoth, yes. It's my tattooist artist's own expression, so it's not...
I'm relieved to discover the tattoo was on your arm rather than... I was a bit concerned about where this was going to be revealed.
It's on arm, yes.
So many possibilities, oh my goodness.
Nothing worse than just an arm. Okay.
Yeah, no, I love your choice of that quote so much. I would never expect it, but that's so on point. Like, yeah, goodness. And if there are our listeners, some of you probably who have no idea which scene we're talking about, oh, it's so worth it. So worth, diving into the Legendarium for this very scene and those 3 words that Shaun just
chapter
quoted.
18 of Silmarillion, so... Yeah.
Which line?
Well, fast. It's last one. No, it's not last line. But there is also power in such a... Tolkien normally has very long sentences, and sometimes he is ending some chapters or quotations with only like here, 3 words. Yeah. So it's so powerful, such powerful sentences. That is amazing. Yeah. Great. Okay. Next question. Which place or places in the whole legendarium would you choose for your retirement? And why, of course?
On my retirement? Wow. I mean, so... Because that's not necessarily my favourite place, right? My favourite place in Tolkien stories is Gondolin, but that's definitely not a place to retire to because you run the risk of being killed by a Balrog. So I'm not going to retire. I suspect, I would retire somewhere like Osiriand, for instance. It's what Beren and Luthien did. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me, I think.
They did, yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Somewhere peaceful, tranquil, beautiful, and quiet as well, away from noise, away from the riffraff.
And no danger of Balrogs coming.
No danger of Balrogs there.
Dragging you.
and of course, it's so wonderful it gets to survive into the Third Age. So there's a chance I won't be drowned either. So I think Osiriand is probably my choice.
It's a good shot to be among those few characters who survive. Okay, awesome, great choice. Okay, the next question we always ask because we're curious about your Tolkien collection. So how many books written by Tolkien and about Tolkien do you have in your collection?
Are we including...
Have you ever counted them?
We're including things like journals and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I reckon it's probably about 1,000.
Oh, wow. I think we have a record here.
Yes.
So it's quite substantial. Partly that includes, because if you think about things like Vinya Tengwa, you got there's 50 editions of that by and of itself. But it's quite, when you think about it, over 25 years. What's that per year? What's that 20? Is that over 40 a year, isn't it? Over 25 years, which I guess couple of months, that's probably about right. I mean, I'm always acquiring books. I'm particularly interested at the moment in some foreign language editions of Tolkien's works. I've been doing a lot of work with the Tolkien Society's archive at the moment, and I have to say one of the most beautiful books I saw in there was the Polish first edition of Farmer Giles of Ham. It's the calligraphy on it is absolutely stunning. Lovely, lovely book. And I'm getting more and more interested in some foreign editions of Tolkien's works. I wouldn't say I've got anything particularly rare or valuable. I mean, there's probably the odd book that has got some more significant value to it, but probably no more than a few £1,000s. I think probably the most valuable books I've got is the Folio Society editions of the Lord of the Rings.
Those are beautiful, yeah.
So I'm really lucky because the Folio Society, with all their books that they print, they keep in their own private collection numbers 1, 2, and 3 of any printing. I've got number 4. What? So I've got the highest available number you could possibly get, and so that's probably pretty valuable, I would have thought. I mean, they sell for between £3,000 and £5,000 those sets. So that's that. I mean, but I didn't buy it for the value of it. I bought it because it was a lovely edition, and I would never sell it. So it's kind of a bit. I know people are interested in hearing what someone's kind of valuable items are. I mean, I've got some. I don't have any early Hobbits or Lord of the Rings really. I've got quite a broad collection because it covers lots of critical works, lots of. I mean, I've got lots of Lord of the Rings. You can imagine. I've got 50 copies of Lord of the Rings or something. I couldn't even tell you how many. Me and my wife were in the process of renovating our house very slowly, probably too slowly, and we're creating a library in there. So downstairs, so we have
a reader's dream.
Problem is we've already had the conversation, but we're not entirely sure if the library will even be big enough. So that's a problem I might have to live with. But it's. I mean, there are some books that hold a lot of emotional value, even if they don't necessarily hold any kind of financial value. So
market value,
Yeah, so there's a few kind of special items in there. So I've got a set of the Lord of the Rings hardbacks. I mean, then even now they'll be like a few £100 these days, but they're emotionally important to me because they're the first things I ever got signed, because they're signed by Alan Lee, and they're the first. And I got that when I was 17. It was like it was one of the first Tolkien events I ever went to, and he was there. And I asked him to sign my books for me, and he was absolutely lovely about it. So there's books like that have a lot of emotional value to me, that they're quite important to me.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, I know what you mean, because I have a copy of The Hobbit signed by Andy Serkis, and my fellowship is signed by John Rhys Davies, whom I met at some event. So yeah, it's amazing to have such books that hold this value, as you said.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Then you have a very vast collection.
Yeah, I also have a big collection of books relating to the films as well, actually. So, because you have to remember, for each film there was like a movie guide, there was a visual companion, there was this and that, the other, and they all add up to quite a lot of books just in of themselves for the 6 films that there have been. Yeah. I don't include War of the Rohirrim because that was just a nonsense, really. But I didn't buy any books. I didn't buy any time books for that, actually. So they add up to quite a lot as well. And the other thing is, with the history of Middle Earth, if you have like a hardback, you've got the paperbacks that were the black covered ones that were very popular, and then more recently they've got the signature hardbacks, as the paperbacks as they call them. Yes. So having one of each of those, right? That already adds up to 39 books.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it sounds like it's a lot of books, but you kind of get to that number quite quickly if you've just been very diligent about buying editions up. So I mean, there are some people who have got amazing collections. I don't know if you follow him. There's a guy called Henk in the Netherlands, and he owns 970 copies of The Hobbit. And he's got The Hobbit in every single language that it's been published in, which is about 100 different editions. There's a guy called John in the US. His website's great, TolkienTranslations.com. He's got The Lord of the Rings in every single language it's been published in. I mean, it's amazing. And so, yeah, it's. I suspect there's lots of people out there that look at my collection and go, "This isn't particularly impressive." I mean, it's the thing about everybody's collections is they're personal, aren't they? They tell a story about you, about what you like. They're your own personal archive, aren't they? So,
yeah. No, that's incredible. Life of a Tolkien collector, it never ends.
Yeah. And do you have all Amon Hens?
I don't have all Amon Hens, actually. So I've got most. So I've got them all from about number 18.
Okay.
To present, they're now actually quite rare. The early ones are quite hard to get hold of, and they weren't A5 staple paperbacks like they are now. Little magazines. They were often A4 folded, and sometimes they were kind of just sealed themselves, and they were their own envelope. And the print runs of them were very, very small, because you have to remember, back in the early to mid 70s, the society only had about 200 members, so the print runs of it was quite small. So those copies have mostly disappeared. Occasionally, you get some of them that come up, but very, very rarely now. Very, very rarely.
Yeah,
great,
very precious.
Thank you for sharing this answer. And the fifth question is: if you could choose one character to go on a quest to Mount Doom and destroy, or at least try to destroy the One Ring, who it would be and why? And you can choose from whole Legendarium, so from first. Yeah,
but there's only one right answer for this, isn't there? and that's Sam. I mean, it has to be Sam. I have to pick Sam. I mean,
yeah.
There's only one Sam. We have to pick him. I mean, in theory, I mean, you could kind of pick like the cheat answer to be like, oh, I would take Manwë with me, right? I mean, like, he's like my cheat answer. Like, oh, yeah,
I will take God.
Yeah, so there's that. But in the actual, mortal beings, probably it's Sam. I mean, he just...
Yeah, that is a good choice, though.
It's probably a bit of a boring choice, but I think it is the right one.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
in canon, he's actually, the only character who proved that he would get to Mount Doom with you. He would complete this task. Yeah, all other characters are just theory. We can guess.
He has been. I mean, although I'm reasonably confident Manwë would get there, so I'm reasonably confident about that. So, frightening that if he was tempted by the ring and what that would mean. But bearing in mind that we know Gandalf, could have been in theory. He was certainly concerned about himself, being worried about it. But yeah, Sam clearly, Sam has got a proven track record on this one. He's
absolutely
he's proven himself. I think we can trust him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of cheat answers, I think one of our guests, I don't remember who it was, but they suggested taking Gwaihir or another, eagle. There was an answer like that, or an idea like that. Take an eagle.
But the eagle. I mean, first of all, the eagle was not a taxi service, but also.
There's the whole conversation.
Does the eagle care about the ring, right? Because there's an argument you could take something like Tom Bombadil, but the problem with Tom Bombadil is he doesn't care enough, right? It doesn't matter to him. Does the ring matter to the eagles? I don't know. I don't know if it does. Yeah, it's got to be Sam. You want Sam by your side, don't you?
Everyone wants some way, so yeah.
But I'll tell you what. Sam, unlike an eagle, unlike Manwë, unlike Tom Bombadil, he will give you a hug.
Yes,
Aww.
That's for sure.
Yes,
and I can tell you, if you've made it to Mount Doom, you're going to need a hug.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
You need 100%. A friend, not only companion. You need a friend. On this
exactly. You need Sam. So if any other your future guests picks anybody else, you tell them that they're wrong. It's Sam.
There's only one answer.
Okay.
One correct answer. So, okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So now we'll take a short break and then we will move to the main discussion.
It's time for our self-advertising because we would like to remind you about our profile on Patronite.
This means that every one of you can financially support our activities from now on. Consider if you are unable to join the group of our patrons. We offer you quite a lot in return, starting with a dedicated Discord channel, additional materials, or the opportunity to join us during the recordings as a listener and various gadgets and gifts.
So we invite you to join us on Patronite. Your support will help us not only maintain the level of the podcast, but raise it even higher. You will find links to our Patronite on our website, and they will also be visible on YouTube and in other media.
But of course, you don't have to do anything, because the podcast will continue to appear in the same form as before, absolutely for free. After all, we are Tolkien fans, and we create out of pure passion.
We would also like to invite you to our Instagram and Facebook pages, where we regularly upload posts extending our current episodes. Meanwhile, on our website, you will find links to all the episodes along with footnotes and our library of books that we use to create the podcast.
We also encourage you to support us on all the channels where you follow us. Your likes, ratings, reviews make us more visible. This means more Tolkien fans joining our in.
And as a result, we have more interesting discussions, so don't hesitate to ask questions or add comments.
Okay, so let's move on to the most important part of your Tolkien-related activities. The Tolkien Society is the oldest organization of Tolkien fans in the world, and J.R. Tolkien is and will always remain its honorary president. Could you tell us a few words about the organization's history and, above all, its goals and objectives?
So the society was founded in 1969 by a lady called Vera Chapman. She wanted to help promote the idea of what Tolkien's works was really about. That was why she founded the society. And the society, in those early days, was a few dozen members, grew to a couple of hundred. Then in 1972, she met Tolkien at a party. Actually, George Allen Unwin invited her to a party in Tolkien's honour. I think it might have been his 80th birthday party, but I have to check.
Okay.
And she approached him then and told him about the society. And he agreed to become the president and said that if he could help the society in any way, he would.
Oh.
When unfortunately, he obviously died about 18 months later in September 1973. And the Society then wrote to Christopher to offer him the presidency of the organisation. And Christopher wrote back in a very loving and humble letter, and he said essentially that no one could compare to his father, and he wouldn't want to compare to his father, and therefore he offered the suggestion that Tolkien should remain our president in perpetuity, which he duly is. And then Priscilla Tolkien, his daughter, was our vice president for many years. It was a tradition at Oxenmoot that she would have first-timers to Oxenmoot at her house in Oxford, where she would just casually take books off the shelf that her father had given her. Just is absolutely incredible. And the Society started from there. And actually, we've been doing Malorn since 1970, our annual journal. And we're doing Amon Hen every 2 months consistently since 1972. It's incredible. I mean, not just in Tolkien publications, but in publications generally. If you go into a newsagent's and look at the magazines, how many of those have been going since 1972? There aren't many.
Yeah.
It's only like big national newspapers now that really sort of have that heritage to them. So the Society grew. We then started doing events, and originally they were just kind of opportunities for drinking and hanging out. But as time moved on into the 80s, we became much more serious. Is the wrong word. Deliberate is the word I would use. We became more deliberate about our activities, and we really embraced that sense that we were an educational charity. So our job, our mission, is to educate the public in and promote research into the life and works of J.R.R. Tolkien. That is our job. That's what we're here to do. So we do events. We do obviously the wonderful Oxenmoot every year. We have our seminars that we do online. We now increasingly have an event in the US called Westmoot. We have over 4,000 members in 70 different countries around the world. We have our project Tolkien in the World, which is to give copies of Tolkien books to schools and libraries around the world where they don't otherwise have access to them. And ultimately, our main aim is to have you can call it whatever you want, a museum, a centre, but a home for Tolkien and for the Tolkien Society, because there is nowhere you can go right now to learn about Tolkien. There is nowhere. Yes, there's been some wonderful exhibitions, often temporary ones, not permanent ones, but there is nowhere you can go to learn about Tolkien. That's the thing that the Society wants to do, and the reason we want to do that's quite straightforward. We want the world to know what we know. And what we know is that Tolkien is one of the most important authors in human history.
Yeah.
And we see our job as a society to promote that in the UK and around the rest of the world. And we are a fantastic community. People meet their partners through the Society. They make lifelong friends.
Yeah.
I appreciate a lot of our members, they probably see us as more like a subscription to the magazines, right? But actually, the Society is so much more than that. And we want to be doing, we want to be out there teaching the world about Tolkien and sharing that love and that passion that we know has affected our lives, and we know that could do so much to help so many other people.
Great.
And just as a tangential note to that, I think this is more and more important than it ever was. So partly that's because of the films, because I think there's a risk here. I don't want Tolkien to end up like Charles Dickens, because if you say to someone, do you know the story of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens? They will tell you, yes, I have seen the Muppets. Yes. That's what they will tell you. But very few people have read the book. Very, very few people have read the book.
Yeah, true.
I know, for instance, as an example, there are not 3 ghosts, there are 4 ghosts, but we never see the 4th one in a lot of the adaptations. And there's a real risk that Tolkien becomes like this, where actually the images from the films define the author. And I think it's really important that the Society, amongst others, I wouldn't say protects the author or defends it, but teaches about what he really wrote. The other thing I think is really important, and why this is more important than it ever was before, is you look at every country around the world, there is something that's consistent and sadly consistent. the numbers of adults and children reading for pleasure is going down everywhere, down and down and down.
Yeah.
Now, this is happening because people are choosing to spend their time on Netflix, on their phones, whatever, right? And we're all doing it. I do it, right? I spend too much time on my phone.
Yeah.
But the damage this is doing, aside from children and adults having the pleasure and in being immersed in a fantasy world in the case of Middle-earth, but there is so much research now which shows that reading for pleasure, reading fiction in particular, improves your creative thinking, improves your problem-solving abilities, helps build those synapses in your brain in a way that you just don't get from watching dog videos on TikTok, as lovely as those videos are, right, and satisfying.
Yeah.
And actually, the Tolkien Society and organisations like us to be there to promote reading and promote the idea of reading, I think, is really important.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said, and an amazing goal. Yeah, and you've been doing such a wonderful job. Like, I really appreciate what you said about Tolkien Society, and we can see it every day that it's such a great community, as you said. You're open towards people with all sorts of, backgrounds, cultures, histories, everything, and it doesn't discriminate anyone. On the contrary, it just brings people together, and I think that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the mission. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, wonderful. Okay, and what does being the head and, leader of such an important organization with such rich, huge, long history mean to you personally?
It's something I never really expected. So when I joined the society in 2005 and I went to my first event in 2005, there was an event held in Birmingham that year for the 50th anniversary of The Lord of the Rings, and I went to my first booth that September. And I didn't plan to be in charge, and it kind of happened because I was quite gobby. I kept having opinions basically about the organisation. I thought we could be doing so much more, so much better than we were doing at the time, and I had a vision for it. I mean, fundamentally, I feel very proud to lead the organisation. Sometimes I feel slightly daunted as well because there's a sense of history that I'm the custodian of.
Yeah.
We would go back all the way to 1969, and you see that the society has an acute sense of its own history as well, which I'm conscious of. But also, I've made lifelong friends through the organisation. Yeah. One of my really good friends in the Tolkien Society I've known since 2007. At last weekend I was at the wedding anniversary of two members of the society who'd been married for 10 years and met for the first time at an event we held in 2012.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But I guess the biggest thing to me personally is at Oxenmoot 2018, I met someone who, at the first timers reception that we held, and she introduced herself as Mina, and she was from Serbia. And at the time, I was able to talk to every first timer personally. I can't do it now because we have so many coming, which is a real shame. It's a real shame. I'm not happy about it at all. In a funny way, it'd be helpful if there were a few of them so I could talk to them all. But I try. Hopefully, you guys know I try my best to get around as many people as possible. But I remember saying to Mina that I thought she was the first person from Serbia that had ever been to Oxenmoot. We had a little bit of a chat. And 3 years ago, Mina and I got married.
Yeah, I was waiting. Where is the story going?
Yeah,
oh my god,
I know that story.
That's amazing.
So...
So for me personally, it's obviously had a very profound impact on my life because I wouldn't have met my wife without it.
Yeah, great.
Oh, I love it. So beautiful.
Yes, we first met in 2018, and we've been together since 2019, and we got married in 2023.
Oh my goodness, that's such a beautiful story. Yeah,
Tolkien connects people, and
absolutely, yeah. You can get the best friends and life partners, through your shared love.
And as much as I will talk very positively about the Tolkien Society. I have to say, I think the entire Tolkien community is a wonderful, loving and supportive community all around the world. And it's lovely to meet other Tolkien people and have that instant connection. You instantly understand one another. You understand the importance of his work. So, it's amazing. And I just hope that the Tolkien Society goes from strength to strength. I really do. Yeah. That's my job to make sure that happens.
I'm sure it will.
It is happening already because our next question, our next theme is about Tolkien Society grown and membership has multiplied and the organizations even become, let's say, much more relevant to 21st century because they are online, they are open for people around the world. And many of these things happened during your tenure. So for each you deserve, of course, our thanks. Tell us what's next. What's the direction of Tolkien Society and events that Tolkien Society organize and everything that you are planning?
So, you're absolutely right. When I first took charge of the society, as you term it, in 2013, we had about 600-700 members. We now have 4,300, so we've gone through a massive change. And one of the changes that's brought about is, to be blunt about it, is our finances. We have money to do things. We have money to do nice things now in a way that we didn't before, and that's really, which is really positive. So us being able to invest in projects, us being able to do the things that our members in the Tolkien community wants to see from us, is really enabled thanks to that growth in membership. So there's a few things coming up. So next year in Birmingham, in next August, we're going to have an event to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Silmarillion, and I suspect we would have between 750 and 1,000 people there. It's going to be huge.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's going to be really. Put it in your calendars right now. There'll be announcements coming out within the next month or so about it all. So it's going to be incredibly exciting. So that's kind of an immediate horizon. We've obviously started last year with our event, Westmoot. Historically, we've always been a UK organisation. We organise Westmoot as an event in the USA, and I think that's going to continue. And in the future, I would like us to think about, can we do an event in Eastern Europe? Can we do an event in Latin America? Can we do an event in Australia, New Zealand? There's such a huge, and that's just kind of thinking about people with, those are just kind of the more obvious locations. At some point, I'd like to get to a situation where, we could be doing events in Japan or in India or in Africa and the Middle East. There are, Tolkien is growing massively. We see this all the time at the moment. Tolkien is growing hugely in Latin America, in Eastern Europe, and in China. And the same reason is driving all three, and that is that there are new editions and new translations of Tolkien's work, sometimes translations for the first time in those languages and in those countries, and that is driving a lot of interest in Tolkien. And I think the Tolkien Society, you take Eastern Europe or Latin America in particular, sometimes we do have local Tolkien societies, and we wouldn't want to tread on their toes at all. I want to be really clear about that. We would never do anything to upset or disrupt a local Tolkien society. But we do have to also acknowledge that sometimes those societies are quite small. Sometimes they're also not particularly well organised, very reliant on one or two people, and then they fall apart. And the Tolkien Society probably has a role in being able to gather people together. So imagine if we held an event in Eastern Europe where, in English, but in an Eastern European country, where anybody from within Europe could attend that event, like we have with Oxmoot in the UK. And actually doing that there would make it more affordable for people for travel. It would make it for people in Eastern Europe, make it more affordable for them to travel, give them opportunities to meet people from their own countries rather than coming to the UK and meeting a lot of Brits. So I think there's an opportunity for the society to do that. But the biggest thing the society wants to achieve is we want to have a permanent home with a permanent exhibition as well as temporary exhibitions that we can share around the world. You can go to Stratford upon Avon and learn about Shakespeare. You can go to Chatham and learn about Dickens. You can go to Yorkshire and learn about the Bronte sisters. You can even go, to some house that pretends it's 22 1B Baker Street and learn about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. Yeah. But there is nowhere you can go to learn about Tolkien.
Right, insane.
The Lord of the Rings was the best-selling book of the 20th century, and yet there is nowhere you can go to learn about it, and that, we believe, has got to change.
And do you have an idea of where this exhibition can be in Oxford, or?
I can't say right now, but yes, we know exactly what we're going to do.
All right, we'll be looking forward to any news about that sure.
You can have me back on to talk about it. How about that?
Yeah, with pleasure.
With pleasure, yes.
Once you can talk about it, then we can do another interview.
Yeah, that's such amazing goals. And yeah, as I said, we'll be looking forward to everything that the Tolkien Society decides to do. As you said, unite all the local societies for a huge event. That would be amazing. Okay, and the Tolkien Society.
Since when I am I'm thinking since when I am a member of Tolkien Society, but I can remember, I think 4 years or 5 years, something like that. So I am supporting all the things you do from abroad.
We're so grateful to you and to everybody else who supports the society. We would be nothing without our members, and we know that.
Yeah, but it's, this two-way contract, let's say like this, I, as a member of Tolkien Society, it's a pleasure for me to support such organization. And yeah, that's why I'm doing so. And, only for this I'm on hands, which I get every 2 months, and articles that are there, and art, so drawings, pictures, and all the things. It's amazing. It's worth to have it, and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you. I'm pleased to hear that you enjoy it so much.
Yeah, because I think people in Poland are sometimes, they think Tolkien Society is only for people. They are some kind of researchers about Tolkien and something like that. They're not for common people. And I think that's what we can talk about here in our interview is very important. It's an organization for normal people. Everybody can join Tolkien Society and can help Tolkien Society. And that's really important. It's not only for researchers and for people who do research on Tolkien or publish articles and everything. Yeah. It's really open.
Yeah, it is. And actually, of course, the scholarship is one aspect of the society. Of course it is, but you also know that that's actually a minority of our members are scholars. They are most of our members are just fairly ordinary people who love Tolkien's works, and love to share that with each other. And that is, it's that kind of straightforward, hopefully from being at Oxford how warm and welcoming everybody is. It's such a positive space to be there amongst society members, and that's always been my experience of the organisation. It really has been.
That's true. I was there last year, so I can confirm. Yes. Okay.
Moving on,
of course.
Moving on. Right. So as we just said, the Tolkien Society is responsible for so many events organized globally, such as Oxenmoot, Westmoot, Birthday Toast, and of course the Tolkien Reading Day. And since this episode will be released right after the Tolkien Reading Day, we would like to talk about this wonderful event for a moment. So could you tell us a bit about this event and when did it begin? Like, what's the origin story? How did it all come together?
So it's really interesting. So the origin was a journalist, an inquiry that came to the society back in 2002. Mm-hmm. And he said that he'd been talking to his grandparents and wondered if there was a day that could be devoted informally to the readings from The Lord of the Rings. because he was familiar with Bloomsday, which is devoted to Joyce. And the then committee of the society agreed to this suggestion, and in 2003, the first Tolkien Reading Day was held as a response. So it was just a journalistic inquiry that brought it about. And since then, it has become, you call it canonized. You know, this is now, everybody the world over knows Tolkien Reading Day. It lives well beyond the society now. And to the point where it even features in the official Tolkien calendars now, right? It mentions Tolkien Reading Day on the 25th of March, which is amazing, and it shows, you know, the power of the society to help shape the community. So that's how it came about. Every year we pick a theme for the year's reading. I mean, people can read whatever they want, but you know, some people like to have a bit of a suggestion or a prod, and we were thinking this year, and it's just picked by you know, it's not even a committee. It's sort of a handful of people within the society. Usually, you know, I'm involved. The now chair of the society is involved, and our education secretary as well. And we're trying to pick something that we think speaks to us. And this year's our theme is unlikely heroes.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of people who are unlikely heroes, and you know, arguably Frodo and Bilbo are unlikely heroes. In a way that, say, Aragorn isn't, right? Aragorn's a very likely hero, as is somebody like Gandalf. But one of you know who I think is the most unlikely hero?
Yeah.
Christopher Tolkien.
Yeah. That's my choice as well.
Tolkien is an unlikely hero. You know, without him, what would we have? What would we have without him? You know,
almost nothing.
Exactly, and he's the hero of the story. We should all remember that. So, I'm going to be. I actually like it if somebody really did a biography of Christopher Tolkien, but this year I'm going to be picking out some of the things that Christopher worked on for my own reading.
Great,
amazing. Fantastic
and
choice.
about this main theme that you choose every year, is this? Do you have the themes for next year's already prepared, or you know the themes, or this every year is in? No,
every year we sort of pick the theme that we're going to go with. There's an element of we sometimes look at what's around, like what's been happening, what are we feeling. So when we had COVID, there was a lot of themes around hope and courage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
we felt like people because people needed that.
Yes. Yeah.
So no, we don't. We usually would pick it towards the end. So we'll probably pick next year's kind of November time, and then we'll pick. Yeah, that's when we'll start deciding what do we think the theme is, and we'll bat it around a little bit between ourselves as well, because you know, we don't want to repeat themes, but we also don't want to make them too complicated either. You know, it's got to be, you know, you're not an archaeologist, right? You're not trying to delve into the into the underground of Tolkien's work to find a relevant reading. We want to make this relatively easy for people.
Yeah.
Sometimes we might think to ourselves, I think we have got an idea for next year's, to be fair, already. But
can you share with us?
I shouldn't really, because I don't know what we choose.
It's nice you tried, Maciek.
But
it would be first heard in the podcast under the Green Dragon.
We all sometimes we think about different things that might appeal to children. I mean, look, next year, what I would say is next year is the 90th anniversary of The Hobbit, and we know, well, at least I know, there's going to be some new things published to coincide with that. And I think it's fair to say, let's put it like this, I think our theme will fit in with that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay. Sounds great.
More things to look forward to, yeah.
But now we have this year, and we would like to ask you about your short excerpt, or do you think best resonates with this year's theme, Unlikely Heroes? We are very curious to hear what you think deserve this title this year. Do you have something that you can read for us, for our listeners?
Oh, no, I haven't prepared to read. Should I prepare to read it?
Okay. We can only discuss. So you thought about Christopher Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's Christopher Tolkien. I think one of the unlikely heroes is Elwing for me, and
yeah, for sure.
I think I'm probably going to be reading something around Elwing in the Silmarillion. You know, her appearing like a swan flying over there and because I think she's a really unlikely hero actually of that story. There's an unlikely hero in Tolkien's life, which is Edith, and that letter to Tolkien that Tolkien wrote to Christopher Tolkien about Edith's death I find that so moving,
heartbreaking,
and so powerful every time I read it. And so I think you know, in that sense, Edith is an unlikely hero in Tolkien's life because we often don't focus on her enough. I think there needs to be more research done on Edith and more talk about her views and how she influenced Tolkien. And then you've got some of the minor works, like is Rover a hero in the story?
Yeah. Speaking of Rover, my pick for this year's theme will be Juan, because I think he's also, the Hound of Valinor. I would call him unlikely hero. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, the problem is in the Silmarillion, right? Is who feels like a hero? Who's unlikely? Because Fingolfin feels like a hero, but he feels like a very likely hero at the same time. Yeah, it's not to say you don't enjoy it, but it feels, exactly. Yeah. It feels very predictable. And I think that for me is the bit. You want your heroes. I mean, I think one of the unlikely heroes of the Lord of the Rings is Lobelia Sackville-Baggins. She absolutely turns out to be an unlikely hero at the end, right? Because it's fair to say the reader does not have a very high opinion of her at the beginning of the story. And actually, when we find out what happened with her during the Scouring of the Shire, our opinion of her increases massively, and we regard her as a very unlikely hero of the story back at the end.
Yes.
I love Lobelia.
I think she's a really good candidate for unlikely hero.
That was my wife's choice. So Kasia, she's also co-host of the podcast sometimes, and she chose Lobelia Sackville-Baggins. Yeah,
a really good choice. I think really good choice.
Yeah, so many unlikely heroes in both works and life of Tolkien, as he said. That's a really good theme. So I'm sure that I'm curious because we'll be holding an event at our Discord of our podcast, and some people will be taking part. And everyone prepares like an excerpt to read. So what you just said, before that, like it goes so beyond the Tolkien Society, the Tolkien Reading Day, and on the 25th we will also be celebrating with our little community. So.
And it's also, I'm very curious, the choices of people, because, it's really open, actually. Everybody can interpret like they wish who is unlikely hero. And that's great, because it's really open. Sometimes you don't think about hero or unlikely hero from the story, and someone tells, read a caption from book, and then say, yes, it is unlikely hero. It is answer the
depending on how they interpret the scene, or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the people that I also think is quite an unlikely hero is Círdan. So Círdan, he in the Silmarillion, he pops up conveniently saving people on boats, right? And he seems to have that very almost like careful stewardship. But I feel like there is a stoic heroism with him. Sometimes we often think about heroism as people who've survived a long quest or people who've, attained victory in battle. But sometimes it's just being there. It's being there relentlessly. And actually Círdan kind of performs that function. He's a character that often gets a bit forgotten about, but actually I think he's... Yeah. You follow the Silmarillion, he's responsible for basically saving...
He's always been there, right?
The remnants of the Noldor at the end there, right? That's his role. Yeah, I think Círdan's also somebody I'll put in the category of.
Wasn't he the guardian of both Eärendil and Gil-galad as well? I think he took care of them.
He was. Yeah, I mean,
Eärendil for sure.
Eärendil for sure. Yeah,
I think Gil-galad as well. Yeah, he was there at the harbours for a while.
I mean, that's the thing with Círdan. Everybody ends up at the harbours at some point. I mean, that's
yeah.
You read the summary, everyone sort of ends up there vaguely at some point during the story.
Yeah.
And what do you think
that's
about?
Also a great choice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about antagonists? Do antagonists in the books can be unlikely heroes? For example, the great example is, in my opinion, Gollum, because he saves the day at the end of the book. So he's actually some kind of hero as well. Yeah,
I mean, in theory, I guess. I mean, I'm trying to think of some more examples of where. I mean, I'm certainly not. I mean, Gollum arguably is very unlikely hero. I'm trying to think of any examples from the Silmarillion, because there are. I mean, Gollum might just be the exception, really. I'm not sure what other examples there really are, but I'm not against it. I'll have to give it some more thought. Actually, it's a good suggestion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know, Maciej. It's a difficult question.
Yeah. Why not difficult questions? But I think if someone can, show us the heroism of heroes, why not? But for me as well, it's quite hard to prove.
It's a big stretch.
Quite hard to prove that someone like, I don't know, Sauron or Morgoth is some kind of hero. No way.
They create jobs for orcs.
Yeah.
Like in the meme. Yeah.
They are heroes for orcs, yes. Okay, Shaun, so we would like to thank you for joining us. We would like to thank you for this interview. As you said, that's not our last interview because we will, I think, met when you can tell us something more about your project and everything. So it will be a pleasure. And it was a pleasure to discuss about Tolkien Society, about Tolkien Reading Day, because it's very important days in Tolkien Society all around the world. So
yes, thank you so much for joining us. That was a great conversation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
That is the end of today's episode. Thank you very much for your time on the Green Dragon Inn, and remember, we are waiting for your comments and questions. And don't forget to click subscribe and like buttons on our channel.
Notes and other materials used in this episode can be found in the description of the episode on our website. There you can also find our Tolkien collection, a full, very rich library of books and other media that we use to create the podcast.
And in the next episode, we are coming back to the Journey in the Dark chapter, so see you in the Green Dragon Inn next week.
As Gandalf said, may the wind under your wings bear you where the sun sails and the moon walks.